Okay, it is 12 o'clock noon. We are going to get started with the Vibrant Index 4.0 information session. Derrick Shoffner, the Senior Director of Programs and Services, will be leading us through this afternoon. And thanks again for being here. There will be a Q&A at the very end. So if you have questions, you can submit those in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, or you can chat in some questions in the webinar chat as well. So it is all you, Derrick.
Thanks, Matthew. And good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. As Matthew alluded to, my name is Derrick Shoffner. I serve as a Senior Director of Programs and Services with Vibrant Pittsburgh. And today, in our quick 30-minute session, I really hope to address all the questions and provide you with as much insight as I can, as the Vibrant Index is 1 week away, as the opening of our next iteration of the diagnostic period being 4.0. So with that in mind, we'll jump right into it. Structurally, how we are going to set our next 30 minutes is 20 minutes of me providing you with detail and information about the upcoming iteration of the Vibrant Index. Final 10 minutes will be question and answer. So as Matthew alluded to, if you have questions at any point in time, please add them to the chat function. And we'll get to those at the end of the time. We're intentionally creating time to answer those questions for you. So with that in mind, for our objectives today, I've kind of alluded to some of these already, but first and foremost is to introduce you to the diagnostic tool. What you can expect, provide some historical insight as to where we started and where we are at the conclusion of 3.0 and where we're moving for this next iteration, i.e. next week. Equipped you with the information and the assets for a streamlined submission process, and those will be coming your way at the end of the session via a recap email. And then, of course, as I mentioned, to answer any question that you may have. So we hope to have a range of attendees from non-members of Vibrant Pittsburgh to members. So I do want to create space and some time just to introduce you to Vibrant Pittsburgh, period, as an organization. And Vibrant Pittsburgh is an economic nonprofit that seeks to accelerate the business community towards equitable and inclusive and diverse workplaces to create a future-forward region. So within that line of work, and our North Star and mission lends itself very nicely to tools and diagnostics such as the Vibrant Pittsburgh to assess just that. So with that in mind, we will jump right into the Vibrant Index, providing you context as to what it is. So as mentioned, the Vibrant Index is in its fourth iteration as a diagnostic tool. So what the underpinnings of this assessment is to assess the internal and resoundingly external practices of your respective organization and benchmarking those in comparison to best practices and diverse, equity, inclusion. So with that in mind, there are 9 pillar areas that will be assessed within the Vibrant Index. And more stably, year after year, questions remain the same, with now in the 4.0 an infusion of a couple of new questions, in addition to a couple of new portions, as we will discuss later in the conversation as well. A couple of areas that I want to really lean into are the underpinnings of the index being free, first and foremost. While we love this to be completed by 100% of our members at Vibrant Pittsburgh, this is an open deliverable for all organizations within the Western Pennsylvania region. So it is free and it is completely voluntary. So there is no requirement for your organization to participate. Of course, we want all to be on the journey of assessing their diversity, equity, and inclusion practices within their organization, again, to then create a future forward region so that all individuals feel seen, welcomed, and appreciated within the region here, with the ability to thrive within their workplaces. So with that in mind, the 9 pillar areas in which we will be assessing within the index range in every capacity of ways in which your organization is tangibly creating an ecosystem within the walls of your workplace, in addition to externally. So engaging with communities and so on and so forth. So really a strong, comprehensive assessment as to the ways in which you're creating ecosystems within your organization, but also the ways in which your brand is more or less directly or indirectly engaging with communities as well. So with that in mind, I'll break down what you can expect within each of these pillar areas of assessment and where we will be going from there with the number of questions and things of that nature very shortly in one moment as well. What I do want to draw attention to is that each year we identify organizations that are leading very strong work within diversity, equity, and inclusion within their organization in our region. So last year we had 11 champions, which is the most we've ever had within any diagnostic period, and they are all listed here. And the designation of becoming a vibrant champion implies that you're doing strong work. I want to reiterate that, not perfect work. So that implying you have to reach a threshold of 95% across all of the 9 pillars that I just mentioned and alluded to in the previous slide. That being said, all of these 11 organizations are now public. You know those 11 organizations that are leading strong work, but that is with the approval of that respective organization. So as a participant in any iteration of the Vibrant Index, that is always going to be safeguarded in terms of your participation as an organization, because it is sensitive information that you'll be sharing in addition to the items that you share with our organization in this diagnostic period. So that in mind, we apply as many safeguards to protect the anonymity of your respective organization and the sensitive information that you'll be sharing with us. So that in mind, that is the reason why you see these 11 organizations and their distinction as a champion. With that in mind, I'm sure you're wondering, how did these 11 organizations get to this designation? And that is, as mentioned, reaching that threshold in every one of these 9 pillar areas, ranging from written commitment all the way to community engagement. So this is a critical slide because it tangibly gives you insight as to things that are going to be assessed within each of these pillar areas, so that you can, quote unquote, tap the shoulder of your coworkers to gather more insight as to where your organization is within each of these particular areas, and tangibly start to gather and source information for your submission process as well. So that in mind, written commitment assesses in a binary sense, yes or no, your non-discrimination policy. Do you have one? In addition to the elements that are incorporated within that non-discrimination policy. Same of which applies to diversity, equity, and inclusion pledges that have been signed by your chief executive officer or leadership within your respective organization. Have they been signed? Yes or no? Things of that nature. So this is kind of like a cheat sheet for you as well. So if that hasn't occurred within your respective organization, you have time to encourage leadership to do just that as well. Benefits and policies is a full and comprehensive audit of your benefits and policies. What's provided, identifying areas of opportunity, but also the strengths of the organizations from a benefits and policies standpoint. Employee networks measures the presence of just that internally. Of employee business resource groups. Do you provide them? What's the structure of them? So on and so forth, but then also takes it a step further as to the provision of such in an external sense. Is your organization encouraging external participation in business resource groups, or going to conferences and conference attendance, and the makeup of things of such of that nature? Leadership assesses the presence of a diversity, equity, and inclusion council, whether that's formal or informal, leadership, engagement within that process, and their stake and role, so to speak, within the driving and assessment of diversity, equity, and inclusion practices within your organization. Training and education measures just that. The who of who's receiving it, the what of what they are receiving in terms of topics of training and education, and when, at what frequency, so to speak. So those are 3 things in which that are assessed within training and education. Data and accountability assesses the demographic information that your organization is gathering and the ways in which they're analyzing it. It's one thing to gather and to have the insight. It's another to analyze that information and act upon it. So that is the ways in which data and accountability are measured within the Index 4.0. Talent attraction, engagement, and recruitment measures just that: sourcing, the tactics of such, the metrics that are involved with doing just that, and an assessment of your hiring process from recruitment all the way through a job offer, the ways in which you're doing just that and controlling for bias and things of that nature as well. Supplier diversity measures the presence and the metrics that are surrounding your supplier diversity plan. If you have goals, are you tracking them? The processes and procedures surrounding that. And we'll circle back to supplier diversity because that will lend itself to the sub-index, which is what I alluded to as a new part of the index moving forward. And then finally, community engagement. The ways in which your organization is engaging with communities, whether that's with festivals, with block parties, with formal education programs that are being provided to respective communities, you name it, assessment of things that in that nature. So with that in mind, you can see the necessity of engaging not just with HR or one respective department, but as many departments as you can within your organization to further support a streamlined process for you to submit your answers within the Index 4.0. Moving on to the new additions of the Vibrant Index, and the first of which is the sub-index, in which traditionally the index really assesses and can be, as mentioned, a tool for you to assess the state of your organization. Do you do one thing? Do you do another? Assessment of that. The sub-index is really going to take that, taking state into account, and then starting to take it a step further with assessment of stage, where your organization is across a spectrum within a certain pillar area. So the sub-index this year is centered around the largest area of opportunity for our region for the last 3 years running, based upon the sample of data that we create within the index year after year after year. So for 3 years running, that has been supplier diversity. The assessment of, do you have a plan? What does that look like? Things of that nature. So within the index this year, you will see as you complete and get to the assessment area that is supplier diversity, you will then be routed based upon a question to a sub-index, which is another block of questions that will take things a step further in terms of assessment. So insider information, that question will be, does your organization have a supplier diversity plan? If you do, you will be routed to 6 additional questions. These are unscored questions in which you can answer to really assess the state and stage of your organization's supplier diversity plan, if you have one, or identify barriers and challenges that may occur if you do not have one, or that is holding your organization back from creation of just that. So either 6 or 5 questions based upon your answer and your presence of a supplier diversity plan. And this is going to be unscored, as mentioned, but also additionally create and yield information in which we can further support your organization. Whether you are a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh or not, we want to move forward supplier diversity within the region here to create opportunity. So with that in mind, that's the infusion of the sub-index that will be further applied within future iterations of the Vibrant Index. So each year, this particular pillar area will be influenced by the previous year's data. So the largest area of opportunity for the region, my hope is that Vibrant Index 5.0 is not a sub-index of supplier diversity yet again. That means we're not moving in any form of positive direction. So again, this information and the information that you provide within your organization is going to lead to action based upon Vibrant Pittsburgh as well. Moving on to timelines, what you can expect from here. We are at the final information webinar. So from here, what you can expect, and these are key dates of note, so encourage you to write these down, but also take a screenshot if you would like as well. The diagnostic period, hopefully this is not a surprise. Many of you have received many emails from me directly, but the diagnostic period starts a week from today, January 17th. The diagnostic period will stay open for 6 weeks, in which you can use those entire 6 weeks to complete the diagnostic. And then reports will be distributed starting in May. After the conclusion of the diagnostic period, there's a lot of silence on our end because we are hard at work with analyzing the data, generating reports for your respective organization, and really leaning into interpreting the trends that we've seen from the sample, in addition to your respective organization as well. So there will be some silence from February to May on our end, in which we will then distribute individualized reports for your organization. And then a report to the region will be on June 13th. This is moved up, to be transparent, to continue to hold on to the inevitable energy that surrounds the Vibrant Index. We think it's better to give you your information and your reports sooner, paint a picture as to the region sooner, and give you more time to tangibly create action and prepare for Vibrant Index 5.0. So quite an abbreviated schedule for us for this coming year. So with that in mind, where and what you will be receiving from our team from here. On January 17th, you will be receiving the Vibrant Index and access to that, which is going to be a live link that will take you to our submission portal, which will be new this year. Previous iterations have used SurveyMonkey. This year will be Qualtrics. So a live link will be shared to you a week from today by 10 a.m. on January 17th. That email will come directly from me. So be on the lookout for that, in which you have access directly to the Vibrant Index 4.0 submission portal. With the use of Qualtrics for this year, you can stop, pause, return to your submission portal in the event that you need to go ask a question to another colleague, to find answers in another route, things of that nature. We have further infused that for you to return back to your answers and just pick back up where you left off, so on and so forth. So I show this screen to say it is critically important for you to complete, if you have not already, this interest form. Just scanning this QR code and voicing that you are interested in participating in the Index 4.0 to ensure and to identify a representative from your organization that can receive that link directly. Of course, we are going to be spreading this information near and far on email list and on social, throughout our newsletters, and so many other realms and capacities. But it's important for you to get that streamlined and direct access to the link and to access to the diagnostic period. So if you have not done so already, strongly encourage you to identify who that's going to be, so that again the process is streamlined for your representative at your organization. So with that in mind, I've really set the scene as to what the index is, areas in which we'll be assessing, the process for receiving access to the index as well, and ways in which you can engage. So I am right on my time of 12:20. So Matthew, I'll pull you back in. Encourage everyone to submit questions if you have not done so already for these final 10 minutes. This will just be kind of rapid fire Q&A that I can address questions that you may have.
So we got one question that perfectly follows what you were just discussing with completing the index. This question asks, who is the best person in my company to complete the index?
That's a great question. We Depends on the structure of your organization. So I'm just going to speak with generalities. Typically, the individuals that complete the diagnostic are HR or HR adjacent individuals. Not to say that that is the perfect person for it, but to say that those are typically the individuals that do submit and complete on behalf of an organization. I will say the people that should not submit the index, which is much more clear. It should not be interns or part-time staff. It should be individuals that are within your organization, that have the wherewithal to gather the information that is needed, and that can submit that information appropriately as well, which is a great segue because we will give you a number of documents post this session to help prepare you for gathering that and sourcing that information for a streamlined process. So that is by way of FAQs will be coming your way, in addition to a checklist of really high level departments that you should connect and talk with, pillar areas that are going to be assessed. Really just a recap of this presentation, in addition to an executive letter. So if you just need the approval or the blessing of your leadership, we'll also formalize that in a letter in which you can send directly to leadership for them to acknowledge, to approve, deny, so on and so forth, of participation within the index. So hopefully that answers your question. So Matthew, I'll kick it back over to you for the next.
Yeah, so the next question, pretty straightforward, asking if you need to be a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh to participate in the index. And as Derrick mentioned before, you do not need to be a Vibrant Pittsburgh member to partake in the index. A next question after that is, what are good next steps after receiving our index report?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is a little forward. After you receive your report, so you've received the link to participate, you've submitted your answers on behalf of your organization, and May comes around and we have your respective organization's individualized report. So it's worth diving into here, which I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, but directly answer your question. So the report that you receive for your respective organization is going to give your score pillar by pillar, identifying and illuminating areas of opportunities in addition to the strengths of your respective organization as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion benchmarks. So it's going to provide you with that in addition to your size cohort in comparison, and the highest score of the sample, which is typically a 10 out of 10. So it's going to create and paint a picture for you pillar by pillar of your respective organization's status, so to speak, and sophistication in diversity, equity, and inclusion, painting that in which we will send that directly to the contact that submitted the Vibrant Index. So worth mentioning that. Does that answer the question? Matthew, I don't want to neglect if there were another pillar or another part of that question as well.
No, I think that was a very good answer to the question. And we just had another one pop through that says, my company is global with headquarters in Pittsburgh. Can we participate?
Yes, absolutely. We have a number of those organizations, and within the diagnostic, the first question or the first block of questions that you're going to answer is really going to be helping set the scene and capture as to the makeup of your organization. We have participants from small cohorts of local nonprofits that are a team of 7, to global companies and organizations that are, again, kind of just as alluded to, that are headquartered here in Pittsburgh. But where we stratify that is asking how many of those individuals are based here locally. And that can be 100 people, that can be 100,000 people. What we are hoping and really trying to assess is that ecosystem here in the city of Pittsburgh, and within our region. So absolutely, regardless of how large your company or organization is, certainly submit upon that.
Wonderful. We have another question here that you touched on earlier, but definitely worth reiterating since this is new to the Qualtrics model of the Vibrant Index. When completing the diagnostic, will we be able to save progress, or do we need to do all information at one time?
That's a great question. You will be able to save process. So yes, or your progress. Yes, you will be able to do that. And your answers will save in real time. So as you're submitting those, if by any means your internet fails, that's like worst case scenario. But if your internet fails or you click out of your browser, your answers will save in real time. So that implied you don't have to do this all in one sitting, so to speak. Additionally, on Tuesday, a week from today, you'll also be receiving with that link a PDF version of the Vibrant Index. So you could print that off, again, further supporting you and chatting with HR and your procurement team and amongst your community engagement team and things of that nature to gather those answers, write them down, so that then you don't have to go back and forth, start and stop, so on and so forth there. So, but to answer your question directly, yes, you'll be able to save your progress in real time and just return to it.
And then we have a next question that perfectly goes right after the question we just answered, asking, how long do you anticipate the gathering data stage to take for an organization who's completing this for the first time?
Yeah, in terms of gathering, pinning the structure of your organization, with like how your meetings are set up. I mean, honestly, within a team meeting type of structure, with all departments present or leadership within all departments present, gathering and sourcing the answers for your respective question or your respective submission will take, 45 minutes in terms of gathering that information if you have the right individuals within the room that can directly answer those questions for you, which will then lend itself to submission, just being, if you have all the answers that you need, and you're utilizing like the PDF version to write those down, 5 minutes to submit your on behalf of your organization. But additionally, we've streamlined with the utilization of Qualtrics, skip logics, display logics, things of that nature. So if you answer no to a question, just tangibly, I'll give an easy answer or easy question, an example here. Does your organization lead any external community events? If your answer is no, you will not be asked to then list examples of deliverables that your organization has led. So if your answer is no, you skip a question, so on and so forth. But also if your answer is yes, we'll ask you for some insight about that, things of that nature. But that's applied throughout the entire diagnostic. So it'll make it a little more streamlined in terms of your submission for you there.
Awesome. And we have another question here that says,
Great.
An organization completed the 3.0. Our CEO did the assessment and shared the results. I am wondering if there are support/resources which can help me work through our 3.0 results in order to start creating some measurable changes. I feel like there are things we need to continue working on before we are ready for the 4.0 or 5.0.
This is great. I love this engagement and the questions here. Absolutely. We have a dedicated team, as with Vibrant Pittsburgh, of ways in which we can support. So if you visit this link here, that's on the shared screen, my email address is listed. So as you have questions, or even more directly, if you are in the submission portal and something like pops up and you have a question of like, this is ambiguous, can you provide more context or information around this, that, or the other? Our team is readily available to answer those questions for you. So there will be no shortage of access and insight as to my email address and ways in which you can connect with me. Maybe too much, maybe you'll hear from me too much, but you can always send me an email. You can always give me a call, which my number is listed in my signature line as well, to further support you as well, as you are submitting. Additionally, as part of participating in the Vibrant Index, I should have mentioned this earlier, after you receive your report, you will have access to a consultation session for free as a tangible deliverable participation in the index, whether you're a Vibrant Pittsburgh member or not, to review your scores as an organization, and then to provide some very low level insight as to strategic planning on ways in which your organization can move the needle, so to speak, within your respective organization. So that somewhat gives you some insight as to what you can expect post submission as well. But I also see we're right here at our time here. Matthew, are there any other questions or before we wrap?
Nope, that was the last question, so right on time.
Love that. So great. Thank you all for your attendance and attention here as well. A recap email with all of the assets and deliverables that I mentioned will be in your inbox and coming your way by end of day tomorrow as well. So I hope to see all of your organizations, those that are participating and those that are in this session as well, participating in the index 1 week from today. Great. Well, have a great rest of the day, everyone. And on behalf of Matthew and I and Vibrant Pittsburgh, thank you for being here.